Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, as Khartoum and Russia poo-poo desperate reports of deepening famine in parts of North Darfur caused by 16 months of brutal civil war in Sudan, civilians caught in the middle of the conflict face daily struggles to feed themselves amidst aid deserts. Also, the first big crackdown on churches found not to be up to scratch sees up to 8,000 places of worship shut down in Rwanda for failing health and safety standards or by being run by preachers without formal theological training. And we break down the continent's performance in the Paris Olympic Games with a particularly deep dive into why Ugandan icon Josh Cheptegei is walking away from the 5,000 metres for good. But first, top voices within the UN have emphasised the scale of human suffering caused by Sudan's war and are pushing for the Security Council to do more to get humanitarian aid access into the country. However, on Tuesday, Khartoum and Russia said that there was no need for action from the 15-member Security Council. Nevertheless, global food monitors say that famine's already taken hold in parts of northern Darfur amidst the 16 months of devastating battling between the army and the RSF paramilitary. And even as Sudan's government rejects the findings, humanitarian groups warn that thousands face a life or death crisis nonetheless. Our regional correspondent Olivia Bizo tells us more.
Famine is adding to the already devastating humanitarian situation in Sudan. The besieged city of Al-Fashir in Darfur has been particularly hard hit. Famine has been declared in a camp near the city where 500,000 displaced people are living. With the situation growing increasingly desperate, Mohammed decided it was time to escape. He's been keeping us informed about the situation on the ground in recent weeks. On Wednesday, he sent us a video warning the situation will likely get even worse. We blurred his face to protect his identity.
It is some season of malaria and epidemic diseases. So this may perish the people and people doesn't have enough food. For that reason, that's why we are calling for NGOs to come and UN bodies.
But a huge challenge in Sudan is access. Both warring sides have been accused of blocking and looting aid.
It's been very difficult for WFP to respond to this crisis. It is important that we get all the support that we can get so that we can access to these people. We do not want the famine to spread over in other areas of the country.
Numerous peace talk attempts have taken place, but so far, all of them have failed. The UN is expected to hold US-mediated talks in Geneva next week. The leaders of both warring sides have been invited in order to once again discuss a potential ceasefire.
Olivia Bizo there for us in Nairobi. Now, a top US military officer says that the pullout of the US military from its final base in Niger doesn't mean the end to the security relationship between the two countries. US troops were asked to leave earlier this year as Niamey's military leaders claimed that the pre-existing cooperation agreement was illegal. But despite the fast turnaround of the pullout, both countries are now hinting at a mutual willingness to evolve the relationship. Our team sent us this report.
200 American soldiers left Niger this week after the handover of the last US base in the country. Troops had been stationed near Agadez in the north at Base 201, where US presence began in 2016. But that's been quickly wrapped up following Niger's announcement in March of the end of military cooperation with Washington. 800 US soldiers from another base left Niger last month, and only a handful of mainly administrative personnel now remain. But Niger's military says the relationship will continue to evolve.
This withdrawal does not mean the end of military cooperation between the two countries. Both are now committed to maintaining contact and working together to define the foundations of a new military partnership.
Over the past decade, U.S. troops have trained Niger's forces and supported partner-led counterterrorism missions against Islamic State and al-Qaeda in the region.
Some Nigerians have long opposed foreign intervention and accused the US military of being ineffective.
We said it back then. The presence of American soldiers on our soil has led to nothing. It has not contributed anything in the fight against terrorism.
Others take a more moderate stance. The USA has gifted Niger 3 C-130 military aircraft, which are great for transporting equipment and for surveillance.
We can't say they haven't helped, as we acquired military equipment with their support, even the C-130s. So we can't deny that, but the results have been mixed.
But the results have left most Nigerians dissatisfied. The military regime has also struggled to rein the operations of armed terror groups, who in 2024 have only ramped up attacks.
More than 8,000 churches and mosques have been shut down in Rwanda this month for not meeting health and safety standards. The first major crackdown since a law tightening up operations was brought in 5 years ago. Clement Di Roma brings us more from Kigali.
The Rwanda Governance Board announced this week that it has already closed more than 7,700 places of worship across the country in recent weeks, the majority of which are small Pentecostal churches, but also several mosques. Most of the buildings constructed without adhering to national standards were deemed unsafe to host worshippers or insufficiently soundproofed. The leaders of these places must also present a degree in theology, for example. These criteria are the result of a 2018 law. At the time, President Paul Kagame stated that the country did not need so many places of worship. Churches and mosques had 5 years to comply, but several thousand have failed to do so. A pastor was arrested on Tuesday for continuing to operate after the closure of his church in the eastern part of the country. Another pastor, one of the few to publicly criticize the measure, called it extreme. He went as far as describing the closures as being institutionally violent, however, retracted his statements just a few days later.
Clement Di Roma there. Now, South African film star and maker Connie Chum has passed away, aged 72. From 2018, she became an internationally known face for her roles in the two Black Panther blockbusters, in which she played a Wakanda elder and tribal leader. But she was also popular in her homeland long before that, winning a South African Film and Television Award for Best Supporting Actress back in 2009. Her family says that she died this week whilst at the Garden City Hospital in Johannesburg. And Olympic boxer Iman Khalif has become a hero in Algeria after winning her semi-final match at the Olympic Games. Her victory over her Thai opponent Janjaim Suwanapeng was unanimously awarded on Tuesday night. The 25-year-old welterweights battled through a slew of gossip and online attacks over false claims that she's not a woman. And many Algerians backed her all the way, though, and say that they're ecstatic that she's now set to enter the ring again for the final. Now, that'll be on Friday evening against Liu Yang of China.
It was incredible. Feelings, emotions, we loved it. All the Algerians were there to support Iman. And honestly, she did something powerful. She's going to bring us the second gold medal for our country, our beloved Algeria.
Despite the cyberbullying, despite the insults, despite everything that has happened, she's here and she's determined to go all the way. Why will she get a gold medal? Simply because she's a woman who has the support of an entire nation.
Well, that sets us up nicely for a deeper look with Africa's eye on the Olympics, which comes in the form of the indomitable Bulelo Tinta, who joins us from South Africa and does not miss a moment of these games. Bulelo, so glad to have you on again. Now, I guess if we're going to do a quick overview of where things stand for the continent at the Games, we can't overlook this end of an era for Ugandan icon Josh Cheptegei, who is arguably the greatest 5,000-metre runner of all time, and yet is walking away from the distance. Why?
Well, we are all shocked here as the Ugandan Olympic Committee has just announced that he is fatigued from running the fastest 10,000-metre Olympic race of all time. Remember, All 13 men who came in first there broke the previous Olympic record. So it was an event like no other, the greatest race. They are calling it over any distance in Olympic history. They say he is too fatigued and he is absolutely broken. And the great man has bookended his career by ending it there. I just want to give you a quick catalogue of this great man. 5,000 and 10,000 meter world record holder, 10,000 silver in Tokyo, 5,000 gold in Tokyo, 4-time world champion. For me, the undisputed greatest of all time. And in Uganda, they call him a legend, an icon, and a national treasure. The reason it's all over, the reason we're so sad, he will no longer be on the track. The Olympics and running loses a legend. But the marathon gains this great man, as the great Sir Mo Farah, Eliud Kipchoge have done. They leave the track and they now embrace the marathon. The greatest of all time has left the 5,000 and 10,000 meters after being too fatigued to run in the 5,000 meter title.
And another key moment is some celebrations from Kenyans who've seen one of their own or not, it depends on which way you're looking at it, who let her true feelings slip. Tell us a bit more about what the deal is with Winfred Yavi's celebrations.
In my favorite Freudian slip possibly of all time, this young woman, an absolute dynamo at the age of 24, she left Kenya 10 years ago and she said the competition, in her own words, was too stiff. We know how great that E10 training center can be. She runs in the colors of Bahrain. But when asked how she felt about setting a brand new Olympic record in the 3,000 steeplechase, there she is looking fantastic and delighted over the finish line. She said, you know, this is a great moment, not just for me, but for Kenya. And she repeated that to say, not just for me, but for Kenya. And in that moment, she showed that Kenya was in her heart, even though on the front of her shirt, it said Bahrain. And I must tell you, those in East Africa, particularly in Kenya, are absolutely in love with that statement. So in her heart, and that gold medal, although it'll go to Bahrain, we're celebrating it just as hard here in Africa.
And another top athlete whose allegiance is in no way in question is Faith Kipyegon. Why is so much hanging on her upcoming performance?
If she does it, she's the first human being, not woman, the first human being to ever win 3 1,500 races. That's 1,500 meters in a row in terms of a gold medal at the Olympics. Just like her, I'll be short and sweet. She is one of one, the greatest of all time.
Thank you so much for that breakdown, Bulela. We're looking forward to having you back on as these last few days of the Olympics get underway. That is, though, all the time we have for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us. Do so again if you can. Till then, take care.